I'm just trying to make it. You understand that? You know, I'm just trying to get by the help of the Lord. I'm just trying to make it. 2 out of 3 of us were not really empowered by the true name that God has called us. We're just trying to make it. In so many of the areas of our lives, in our jobs, in our homes, we're just trying to make it. There's a difference between when you're married to something and you know without question, without shadow of doubt, there's no reservation, there's no hesitation, there is no shakiness at all that this is the person you are supposed to be with until you turn to dust. There's a difference in that between, I'm just trying to make it. Lord, if I can just get through the week with this woman. You understand the difference? There's a huge difference between knowing without a shadow of a doubt that this is where God has called me to do. This is my calling. This is my place. I know without question I am immovable. I am adamantine. No one can shake me from this because I know this is what and where God has called me. There's a difference between that and I'm just trying to make it. I'm just trying, with the help of the Lord, by the grace of God, to make it. Big difference, big difference. So, and what God is trying to move us to is to where we're in a position where we know without question that this is what we're supposed to do. I preached a sermon years ago called What's Your Mission? It's sermon number 5259. You need to go and listen to that sermon. It will go into some details about your purpose, your calling, your mission. 5259. Go and listen, but you need to really have a solid belief and know what God has called you, and the name He has called you. Now let me explain something to you. Your true calling, and a lot of times we'll get our true calling mixed up with ease. Your true calling, oftentimes when God has truly called you to something, it's not easy. One of the things that as I was reading through the Bible, and I read the chronological version so that I went through the timeline as stuff actually happened, and there were several patterns that I noticed, and one of the patterns that I noticed was all of the people who God called went through some real heavy-duty struggle, battles. They went through times when they were depressed and down. The greatest king in the Bible was David, but he wrote the Psalms, and when you listen to most of the Psalms, they're depressing. Lord, the enemy trying to kill me, help, give me those. He was going through so much stuff. It would almost sound like he was just trying to make it. He was going through so much stuff, and it wasn't just David, but when you read through Moses and when you read through the prophets and all of these great men of God, they went through so much trouble and so much turmoil, and even Jesus went through so much crises and the stress and the strain of it all. And I said, Lord, I said, read through all this stuff and your people and who you called. I said, getting called by you ain't no easy thing. I said, when you really get into the purpose, you got to deal with some Goliaths. You got to deal with some rebellion. You got to deal with all this kind of stuff. When you really get into your divine purpose, that thing stretches, pulls, strains, doggone near kills you sometimes. I said, Lord, I said, this stuff is rough. Trying to go by what you have called folk to do. This thing is not easy. And I said this all in my head because I couldn't talk. I could only read. But I heard God answer me. And sometimes I'm not sure whether stuff is my own mind or the Lord. This time and with this answer, I knew it was God. Because there's sometimes when that divine answer comes, it punches through so strong, you know without question this is God. And there I was questioning all of this stuff as I read all of these great people in the Bible and all of the stuff that they went through trying to stay true to the path and true to what God had called them to do. As I read through all of that, and I'm asking God, Lord, how in the you call folk and all this stuff, and they got to go through all this turmoil and trouble and strife and strain. And God answered me, and he simply said this. He said, most folk go through all that stuff and they don't do anything for me. And it hit me like a sledgehammer. I said, show you right. You know something, that's I said, show you right. And this is a point that most folk go through hell on the way to hell. So if you got to go through the stress and you got to go through the strain, if you got to go through turmoil, if you got to go through something that's going to be heavy, you might as well go through it for the Lord on the way to heaven. If you got to go through hell on the way to heaven. Yeah, and that's what he said. He said, most folk go through all that stuff and they don't do anything for me. I said, you just as dead right about that as you can be. So if you gotta go through something, and you're going through something, see, there's no way around it. See, many of us we just want it easy, and that's natural. I don't want any tough stuff. There's some stuff God has told me. To be honest, I said, look, I don't really want to fool with that. To be honest about it, people, there's some of the things that I have gone through that has helped me to become a better preacher, to be perfectly honest. But I don't want to go through it again. I didn't want to go through it when I went through it, and I don't want to go through any more stuff. But life simply has stuff that you will go through. If you got to go through stuff anyhow, and you do, see, you simply cannot make a decision and say, I'm just not going to go through anything. I'm just not going to deal with it. I'm just not going through it. There's nothing you can do to prevent some stuff that you will have to go through sooner or later. You're just going through some stuff, and that's just all there is to it. So if you're going to go through stuff, you might as well go through stuff for God and his calling and for what he wants you to do, because when you go through it for God, your outcome is entirely different than when you go through it for yourself. See, when you understand the name and what God has called you, what most of us want, instead of the name that God has called us, we want to name it and claim it. See, and that was at one point the whole modern preaching thing going on. Name it and claim it. That may not have been what God even wanted. That may not have been his name for you at all. We want to name something and claim it instead of asking, Lord, what do you want for me? And most of the stuff that we name and claim, to be honest about it, is material. I just don't hear many people talking about, Lord, just give me a more humble spirit, Lord. That's what I want to name it. Lord, just make me humble and meek. You don't hear that much. Just don't hear it. Lord, make me a more dedicated servant, Lord. Give me just a servant. That's not what we hear in naming and claiming. What we hear often, Lord, I want this, I want that, I want all this. And see, we had recently one of our members here who came into a little money. You all know about that. You know what his class is called? Render My Money. He changed the name from dollars and cents to Render My Money. So every month he got up and he taught Render My Money. Unselfishly, never got paid a dime. He was here every month, absolutely free of charge, study and talk to people about money management. Render My Money. So the name that he changed his class to was what God had called him to be. And God says, because I have heard you answer my calling, I'm going to render your money. You understand? Now, see, this is some stuff. So when you answer the call, see, most of us got this backwards. We're not going to say, no, I'm going to come up here and serve the folk. I'm going to teach the folk. No charge. No, that's not what most of us say. Lord, just give me a few million, then I'm going to see what I'm going to do for you. That's what most of us want to do. No. We have to be able to understand what God has called us and what he has called us to do. And get away from so much of the material stuff. Sometimes people, today may be one of the days that we'll go over, but that's okay. This is the 1 month of the, because this is important for you all to understand. Most of the stuff we even name is sometimes ridiculous. I was at a service about 3-4 years ago. There's a man speaking called Peter Daniels. He was a billionaire out of Australia. And he was speaking to the audience about money. And he said, he pulled up 5 people randomly out of the audience, had them just come up on the stage. And he asked them a question. He said, I want you to tell me how much money you want to earn for the rest of your life. Just one figure. If you add up all of the years that you have, how much money total do you want for the rest of your life? There were 5 people on that stage. The first man that he asked, how much do you want to earn for the rest of your life? Now, they probably averaged 35, 40 years old. So you figure they had 30, 40 years left in life, roughly. So for the next 35 to 40 years, how much money total do you want to earn? The first man he got to, he said, I want $10 trillion. Now, there's no joke, no exaggeration. That's what he said. I want $10 trillion. I'm sitting there thinking, does this man even know how much $10 trillion is? The whole GNP of the U.S. is 4-point-something trillion. He talking about he want to make, double what everything is made and produced and sold in the U.S. for the whole year. Did this man even know? The first man said, I want $10 trillion. Then the next man said, I don't want but $2 trillion. I said, do they know what they're talking about? Now see, this is the part where it gets so, most of us, we really don't even know what we even want, what the hoot to make any practical sense. Out of the 5 people, the smallest amount was a lady who said she only wanted 900 million. That's the smallest amount. The rest of them were like 100 billion here. And the smallest amount was $900 million. So she had about another 30, 35 years of life. So that means basically she wanted to make $30 million a year. None of the people had the slightest realistic idea about what they even wanted. None of the people had the slightest idea. So sometimes we have to even learn how to ask God, Lord, what do you even want me to have? See, even with my money, I had sense enough not to choose it myself. I asked God, I said, Lord, you tell me. And God spoke a limit. He said, this is the amount that you can earn per year. And once you hit that point, you shall take no more money into your household.
Hallelujah. Brothers of the word, when the voice of God is heard, brothers of the word, there's a word from God for everyone. Brothers of the word, because brother, you need the word. Brothers of the word. Brothers of the word.